Welcome to the Sleeping Barber Podcast.
Guess what, Mark?
She
is very lovely. It is post-pod time. She's lovely.
She is amazing. I honestly, when I saw her come on the screen, I just instantly started smiling. Like she's just...
It's the calm demeanor. She speaks so eloquently.
Yeah.
She's a... Grace, you're a gem.
Yeah.
Absolute legend.
Yeah. And tons of stuff to learn from her, obviously. And I really, like you mentioned it towards the end there. I think we were recording. Maybe it wasn't when we were recording. But anyway, there's just so much good stuff. It's not heavy in the theory, but it's super practical. I just love her approach.
Yeah.
What were some of the big takeaways for you there, V?
Some of the big takeaways. I know we finally kind of got some of the foundational elements that I thought was interesting that she highlighted. So she mentioned, brand, brand building, measurement, building and consistency. She did address the nuances right now in a new age where the consistency across all the different channels that you're communicating against is really important. And then I loved your push just on the comfort level around data and the example that we had just within the podcast where we cited 218% of employees are able to drive. Oh, geez.
200 comprehensive employee training programs have 218% higher income per employee than companies without formalized training.
Exactly. And she says, why don't you just say that as 3 times?
Yeah.
And she's 100% right.
More revenue per employee. Yeah.
Which just something small like that, it just changes. So I think for me is just kind of understanding what are those fundamental concepts that we need to make sure that we're all kind of abreast with. And I would add to that, what are the marketing effectiveness principles that we could add against them, right? So then it becomes almost like the way of working a little bit. But that for me is the biggest takeaway. How about you?
So right at the end, she mentioned the 2 words that I caught anyway, we want to be credible and we want to be convincing. So if we start with that thought in mind,
I like that.
She also mentioned something at some point in the podcast about really a big part of what we're trying to do in terms of making this material real is we're faced with real problems in a day and we're trying to diagnose why it's happening. Yeah. And so the foundational material like around measurement, brand building, consistency, and internal comms is like again that Jenga idea or the
I love it.
Like it's look at you going. It's really like that, it is one thing, but what you're really trying to do is have a better understanding of how to diagnose the situation. So sales are slumping.
Yeah.
We don't have enough store traffic. We got to move this product. We bought too much of it. There's an infinite number of problems that are out there that that marketers are trying to help communicate.
Yeah.
And so if you're then trying to go with the approach of let's be credible and convincing, it's not so much like the end goal isn't the knowledge. The end goal is being credible and convincing to help better diagnose problems and then apply a treatment that's likely to have a better outcome. Yeah.
No, you're right.
So to me, like it was helpful in the sense that was my big takeaway. It's not the material that's the outcome. And we talked about this with David a little bit. It's the result that's the outcome. That's what makes us effective. It's not that we have some knowledge that makes us effective. Though I think the knowledge helps us be more effective.
I'm with you. My only push there is, and I don't know if this is just because, and I'll speak for myself here, and I know you'll probably agree on some of it, but I wasn't terribly enthusiastic about the material that we were taught in our MBA, especially on the marketing side. Right.
True.
And for me, we need to speak up as practitioners to say, like, this is not enough anymore.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we're pushing these institutions to rethink what the curriculums look like.
Yeah.
How do we start, bringing more of what we are consuming in our day to day now, right? And maybe because we've just become a part of this ecosystem,
Yeah.
it needs more legs. And I just, while I can say, like, from a training perspective, it does give you like this base level, but I don't know if the base level is enough. At least the
Yeah.
way it's
Well,
being taught today.
yeah. And I agree with you. Like, I think, what's that line about? We're not gonna fix today's problems with yesterday's thinking or something
Yeah,
like that. And I think to some degree that's true, and that's where a lot of the evidence-based stuff to me is exciting, because having had a science background, all that kind of stuff,
yeah,
I know what science means, and that if I can sum it up in one thing, it's self-correcting.
yeah,
So you have an idea, let's call it bloodletting. You think it's real, you think it's helpful. Turns out it doesn't really do a whole lot, especially if you've got a fever.
yeah,
Like, and then, but you only know that over time, because there's been studies that have been done to show that, and this is where it's not the differentiation between theory and evidence. It's not theory. There's evidence it actually is not good for you if you're just trying to prescribe
exactly.
somebody for a headache, let's say.
Yeah,
Um, and so there's, like, to me, that's where it's exciting. And to your point, it's really important that we continuously, or some people continuously, look at the material we're feeding to people for training,
yeah,
and look to see if it is junk food or if it's actually nutritious.
yeah. And maybe then the flip side of that is, when you think about like a lot of the programs are, let's use Mark Ritzen's like mini MBA.
Right.
I was talking to a student, and she wants to get into marketing. Shout out to you, Demi. I know she's a listener of the podcast, and
Well,
she asked
hi,
me, is like,
Debbie.
should I go and do my master's? And I encouraged her not to. I said, instead, go look at Mark Ritzen's mini MBA program. That will give you a lot more, especially entering the marketing field as a new grad, than doing an MBA that you won't be able to apply any of those principles that you will learn, likely till like year 7, 5 to 7, when you start leading some teams, or you get closer to some of the, the, what's it called, the finance side of the business. You'll be too far removed. And again, I wish a lot more people would have those honest conversations, because I think we're just, at my stage of my career, the MBA, yes, there's value there, 100%.
Sure.
Right. And maybe I could have done it a little bit earlier, but I'm a little jaded just in the traditional like education system and how it's been approached. And I think we need to make sure that as practitioners, we're helping the new wave of marketers come in and guide them down the right paths of actually being effective marketers for their organizations.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's tricky because, like, I think there's so many voices out there. Like, in addition to the traditional academic institutions, like a college, university, that kind of thing, there's also, of course, like courses that Grace has, or Mark has, or James
Yeah.
Herman has, or
Yeah.
there's those. But then there's probably thousands of others of, those ones you see, hey, have you like the first 5 seconds on YouTube?
Oh yeah.
Are you trying to solve a marketing problem? Do you want to get your cost per lead down to like 3% of what it used to be?
Yeah.
There's those kinds of ones too that are out there. It's almost like the old late night TV ads.
Totally.
So it's in some cases overwhelming, I think, to try
It
and
is.
find the right places of credible information. I think, again, for me, the evidence-based stuff, anything that's rooted in that, if you can filter the curriculum to look for some of those keywords, like mental availability, long and short of it, Binet and Field, Byron Sharp, Aaron Bird Bass, like some of that stuff, that's like, Not to say that is the be all end all. There's other people like Grace making great contributions,
Yeah.
but there's got to be some common consistency. It's not just, oh, I did this thing and it worked. I'm going to show you how to do it.
Totally.
Yeah.
You would have saw this. I did a post earlier this year, just around like key marketing thought leaders to follow, books to read, et cetera, podcasts to listen to, et cetera. And I've been so pleasantly surprised on how many people not only engage with that, but how many people are reposting it and whatnot. Because I think it goes back to, as marketers, we do crave this material. Like we do want to know where we need to be looking. How do we become even louder? I feel like it's on us as the ones that are kind of like on the other sides of our careers a little bit, where we have the long experience and we know to kind of like help people identify where you need to kind of find that right information.
Yeah.
It's on us to share that and make sure everyone is aware of it. We have a responsibility, is essentially what I'm trying to say.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And I mean, to that end, I think this podcast, selfishly, is amazing.
It's number one in my books.
But if you think back to why we started this, it was for that purpose, to try and find information selfishly for ourselves. That was credible and convincing and helped us learn. And really, I mean, we've been lucky in the kind of guests that we've been able to get, but anybody could kind of do this. It doesn't just have to be us. I'm happy that we're helping other people learn things, but anybody really can do the Goodwill Hunting thing, and for $1.25 in late fees, get an MBA education.
It's true.
It's up to you, right? Like it's a matter of whether you'll make time for it, and if you're curious to want to learn about it. And I think the idea of a growth mindset and all that kind of stuff plays into that. But yeah,
it's a great point. And I think maybe it's just our discipline, or maybe it's human nature. I don't know. But I'd like to think that, like, as a discipline, we're naturally curious. We naturally want to see, what's working out there. Think about all the case studies, the best practices, the award shows, and whatnot. You have a lot of people that are, taking part in those because you want to aspire to something, and that aspiration comes with curiosity. And I think we have to place the larger emphasis on the training a lot more, because it does help us become better marketers. We don't know everything. I don't know everything. I know that.
Fuck no. I don't know everything. I know that.
And I don't want to know everything.
100%. My kids tell me. My wife will tell you that. But here's another killer stat for you, V. So I put up a post on LinkedIn. Which opinion best describes your thoughts about marketing training? Don't bother. It always changes. I'm always learning. Most material is outdated. A degree certificate is enough. I literally got 100 votes. So this is percentages or whatever you want to do it. There's 100 responses here.
I hope that a lot of people picked I'm always learning. I hope that was like the number one thing.
Survey says ding 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 ding, number one.
Yeah.
You won the toaster. 93%
Let's go.
of the people 93% of the people picked that one. And then the second one, 7%, was most materials outdated. A degree certificate is enough, 0%. Don't bother, it's always changing, 0%. So
okay.
To me, I think there's something to what Grace was saying too, is, well, there's a lot of what she was saying that makes sense.
A lot of it applies.
All of it applies.
All of it.
But the idea that people are always learning, and especially marketers, from what I can tell, most of the people who respond to this were marketers. So people are genuinely interested in learning stuff, and they're always learning stuff. They're learning it from different places. And I think it's a matter of I think what traditional curriculum does is it intentionally creates an outline of material to learn.
Okay.
If you are a performance marketer or a growth hacker or whatever, and you think about, or like a brand marketer or an evidence-based marketer or whatever,
yeah,
and you're relying on algorithms, you're going to get fed more of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe where some of the difference is. Like, you know, in my Google News feed or my Facebook or my Instagram or whatever, I think that's maybe the difference, where you get forced in a curriculum to learn things that maybe are outside of your regular
That's true.
scope. Whereas if
that's
you're just
true.
learning stuff based on what's being fed to you, they're feeding it to you because you've read it and they're giving you more of that thing.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. That's a fair point. And if you look at it that way, and that's its role, for example, if I use the NBA as our example, like for me, it was great in a lot of those subject matters that I have zero experience in, zero expertise in. It make me a lot more aware of all the other areas, right? So I think from that, it was extremely valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need it as a marketer? No, you don't need it. I think it just depends on where you're at in your career, where you can find, you know, how can that be penciled in to your growth strategy, right? Your personal growth strategy.
Right.
But you're right. You're right. You're becoming right quite a bit, by the way. What's wrong with you?
I don't know. Again, that's only here. Ask my kids. in this little circle of this tree of trust.
In this tree of trust, I love that.
Yeah, no, I think I think there's something to the idea of nutrition, like nutritional content.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So it's not so much that we're consuming content so much as it is that we have nutritional content to consume.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy to find.
It isn't. No, it isn't. That's for sure.
You have to look for it, for sure.
So just keep listening to the Sleeping Barber podcast. Like, we'll give you all the good stuff. What an episode.
Yeah. It was good. Okay, buddy. That's it. That's all we got for today.
That's right. Listeners, you know what you do. Go chase profitability.
Oh, I like that. Nice work.
That's okay.
Yeah, it was good. I think it was really good.
I needed to redeem myself from yesterday. Long, awkward pause. Like, you look at me, Mark. What do you want me to do?
Okay, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a good one, bud.
Ciao.